JKB back with another episode. Today, guys, I'm reviewing Don't Breathe from Fede Alvarez. Now, this is the director of the Evil Dead remake, which I thoroughly enjoyed all the way through. Absolutely amazing horror. What's he gonna do in his next film? He's gonna do something so fucking ridiculous that's gonna change the face of thrillers and horror films for a long time. What the fuck am I talking about? By the way, I have to stop swearing in my videos apparently, so I fucking better start fucking doing that, because if I keep fucking swearing, I'm not gonna make any fucking money off these fucking videos anymore, so fuck. Be fucked. Because YouTube is changing their policy where you can't swear, essentially, in your videos apparently, which I don't completely understand or believe in at the moment, but I should fucking stop fucking swearing. You know, my mom's been telling me for 7 years not to fucking swear. She's like, stop fucking swearing in your fucking videos. So I'll fucking do it. I'll fucking do it. I'll stand back and go, fuck, I'm a man. I'm fucking willing to not fucking swear in my fucking videos. That's bad. So what I'm going to do today is explain to you Hitchcock was a master of suspense. If you're a huge fan of filmmaking, you will understand this simply by watching anything that he ever produced that was in the line of horror / thriller. Now, of course, Psycho can be considered to be one of the all-time biggest horror thrillers, and I kind of agree with that. However, Don't Breathe, and people are going to say, you are fucking on drugs, and I am on drugs, but I don't know how he did this. But in Don't Breathe, it has a very simplistic story. Very simple. There's not too much to it. You have three robbers that are going to go into this house and basically steal something that they really want. And you have one antagonist that's going to kick the shit out of them. Don't want to give too much away in the story. I will say that Stephen Lang is spectacular as the blind man. He plays an army vet that is now retired who has lost his daughter. I couldn't believe how intimidating he is on the screen. It reminded me of the original Halloween when you saw Michael Myers just lurking in the background of a shot. A lot of that's going on in this film. Then you have Jane Levy, who's, again, she's from the Evil Dead remake, played the protagonist in that. Unbelievable in this as well. Now, let me just say, there are a few problems with the film, which I'll get into in my pros and cons, but before I get into that, what I need to explain to you is there's a scene in this film that's going to change you, possibly change you. I know a lot of females have stated that this film fucked them up. For me personally, I'm sitting in the theater and the scene is about to go down and something happens. Of course, I'm not going to spoil it, and it will change what you've seen on the big screen forever, your whole life. You'll never recover from this, ever. And the audience, for the first time ever on a Monday night, stood up and clapped because of what happened on the screen. I haven't seen that in a theater since episode 7. It was unbelievable to see and experience. You have to see this film in the theater. Now, moving forward, this film does have its problems. Of course, it's very difficult to take 4 characters, put them in a single setting, and make it interesting. But somehow, this director has taken these characters and introduce them to a setting we've seen before, like Panic Room. If you've seen that film from David Fincher, you will essentially have seen Don't Breathe. However, he kicks the shit out of David Fincher in terms of setting up and delivering scenes of intense suspense over and over. I haven't seen a film this masterful since I don't even know. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen a horror film that had me on the edge of the seat. Me believing in the characters, even though the story and the characters are paper thin, which is a bit of a, but I don't think he was going to win, an Oscar for, best drama of the year. He was simply going out there to fuck with the audience and deliver one of the most intense films I've ever seen ever. There's many scenes upon scenes of these characters standing completely still. Brings you back to the original, Silence of the Lambs, and in the basement scene with Clarice, that's her name. Clarice, is that her name? Clarice, I don't fucking know what her, oh my god, Clarice, closer. And what did the lambs do? That's a horrible Anthony Hopkins. Fuck, this has just been derailed, but let me get into the pros and cons of Don't Breathe. Why do you want to go see it? Most intense film you're going to see this year, period. Maybe this decade, ever. I mean, it's been... I can't think of another... This reminds me of the end of Blair Witch Project. I know a lot of you are like, that wasn't suspenseful. It was a fucking boring movie. Whatever. If you say that, then you're not into the genre. Some of the positives. Let me go negative actually first. Negative aspects of this film have to be the paper-thin story. The characters are very, very paper-thin. There's not too much to them. Essentially, their motives are kind of boring, and they're not redeemable characters. They are to a certain degree, of course, after you find out more of the story. However, it's not going to blow your minds. It's not going to be spectacular. You're not going to leave the theater thinking you've seen fucking Vertigo. So those are really the negatives. And the positive sides, you have amazing score music that plays at the right moments. It's taken away at the right moments. These are filmmakers that understand that score doesn't need to play over every single scene in a film. Definitely leaves at the moments it needs to leave, and it kicks in on the moments that it needs to kick in. The score is spectacular. The acting is okay. It's not spectacular. You're not going to be blown away. No one's winning an Oscar for acting in this because the characters are paper thin. However, they do translate very well to the screen in terms of just the sheer suspense and intensity that they project onto the screen really does work. Really does work. I heard rumblings of a sequel to this film, which doesn't make sense to me. However, I just gotta say, in closing, I give Don't Breathe a 9 out of 10. The reason it's not a perfect film is the story is a little bit weak. If they fine-tune it to a different degree, I think maybe we would have had a masterpiece on our hands. But I will say this, we have a masterpiece of suspense and intensity on our hands, and it is in Don't Breathe. If you want to go to the theater and bring your girl, you bring your chickie and put the popcorn on her lap and grab it and go, whoops, touch your tippos. This is the film to do it, because she will be squirming and grabbing your arm the whole way through. This is a perfect date movie, but first and foremost, it is one of the best intense thrillers I've seen for a very long time, maybe a decade. I can't even remember the last film that scared me this much. Thank you so much for watching this review. Really appreciate you. Love you. Thank you so much. Oh God, I'm going away for a week now. We'll be back with, this is insane to say, but I'm going to the world premiere on the 11th of Blair Witch, and on the 12th, I will release a review of that film. World premiere. It's in Toronto. How'd I get so lucky? Thank you. Love you guys. Long time.